Hello my shipmates, welcome to Sonic Sanctuary Cave, and here we are at the end of the album. I've actually just about finished the last track, Foundation and Summons. In my last blog, Composer's Thoughts on Craft on History, which I published a few days ago, I talked about some of the inspiration. I talked about the concept of prehistory and mythology and musical mythology. In Composer's Thoughts on History, I shared a few videos that were part of the inspiration that other people have put together on the same theme that gets woven into the album. And a lot of that comes from Graham Hancock's work. What I wanted to show you today as a behind-the-scenes glimpse is into the rack. And a rack is, for non-musicians, is like it's something that's built up, goes back to analog gear, when you're actually building up physical components that are the bits that actually process your audio. So in the digital domain that I have, in the software that I work with Reason, we have a digital rack. And Reason's actually the software that helped revolutionize my creative life, helped revolutionize my music when I first came across it in 2000. It was a lot more simple back then, but it made everything make sense. And I think it was 2000. It might have been Cubase in 2000, but I couldn't get a handle on Cubase. No, it was Cakewalk. It was Cakewalk. And I tried to set up a little home studio back then. I got my first computer in 2002, but that just, yeah. It didn't work. I didn't understand routing inputs and outputs, and I just never could get things right. So it was a few years later, I think, when might have been around 2002, or when my son was little, that I did a course in Reason. I can't remember what year it was. Anyway, so back to the racks. I've got a lot in this one, in this Foundation and Summons track, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. I also want to show you a picture that I'm quite possibly going to put into the Crowdfund, because I'm going to be seeking money very soon to produce this work, to produce this album. So I'm going to be offering some paintings, obviously CDs. I've got a book of lyrics of all my songs, which I've put together. I'll show you that. This All Alone Out at Sea. Waxing lyrical, 30 years of lyrics and songs, sung, unsung, released and unreleased, finished and unfinished. So it's got pictures and all the lyrics to all my songs to date in here, going back to when I was 13 years old. So that will be on offer. So let's have a look in the session file, and then I'll show you this painting, and then we will maybe ruminate a little bit more. I don't want to make this one too long, but this is for Composer's Thoughts on Craft on Inspiration. Okay, see ya. So for non-audio nuts or other fellow musicians, this is what the inside of a music software program looks like. This down here is what we call our MIDI, I'll use a pencil, piano roll editor. It's like a virtual piano. That's where all your MIDI data goes in. You can go in there and you can edit. So that's what it looks like when you expand out. This is essentially like your timeline where all your audio data goes. That's a master section there, so that's a master level coming out up here. All your audio for all your tracks goes in here, all the MIDI and audio. So you can see there's actually a bit in there. This is an equalizer that sort of sits on each track, or more frequency spectrum analyzer, just to help me troubleshoot stuff. Now the rack itself. So if we zoom in here, this is the mixer view. We've got a timpani, a string section 1, I need to rename that, male choir, string section 4, which is a synthesizer. Awesome name for a synthesizer. A bass section, bass drum, lead piano, pizzicato strings, other strings, NNXT, which is another sort of synthy, sampley sort of thing. Astral effects, an audio track, which I don't think I'm going to end up using, so I'll delete. Oboe, strings. Oboe is a very strong feature in this track because it's very evocative. Audio track 1, audio track 2. I think one of them has the voice on it. Voice is there, so I've just got a couple of other. I'll transfer the guide track that the voice is on at the moment onto audio track 2, because this is still a template from I Am Song of the Earth, and I'm going to use that the same effects on voice, so it's got continuity, but I'm going to be doing some finessing, and I can't wait to actually get into this and start doing some automating, mucking around with concept words and spatial perception and stuff. That's a string orchestra, double bass and strings, and a choir wash. The birds, I don't know what they're doing there. They can be deleted. So that's that. I'll show you. This is the guide. The guide vocal track. At the moment, I didn't want it to go like that. I don't know what happens if I do that. Anyway, so this is narration. There are only 4 songs on the actual album that are non-narrated. Now, would you like to have a little preview? I'm going to have to pause it. I want to take you into the middle of the track. So I said we were going to talk about the rack, and I didn't even show you. So this is a rack. This is a mastering session of it. Has equalizer, stereo imager, compressor, and a maximizer built in. Then you've got a combinator, which is like a device which you can combine lots of other things into within Reason, and they become like a sort of self-contained unit. Or you can import combinators which have already been pre-built by other people, which have got all sorts of stuff in it. So if you go into it and you have a look at the program, well, you can't really tell that much what's in that one, but I'll show devices. Okay, Scream for phase unit, tape compression, compressor, a spider audio splitter thing, and an equalizer. So yeah, you can build stuff in them, and they're really fascinating. Different effects that I've got loaded up, different for voice basically. Digital delays and timpani. The Project Sam stuff is really lovely, and I would love to get a lot more of their synths to get their really high-end stuff. I need really like a couple of grand, and I need a contact player to get all the stuff, because they've just got really high-end samples, and I would love just high-end orchestral samples. But anyway, this is the best I can get for now. There is one you can get to go with the Ableton thing as well. This is the one that's compatible with Reason. It's a few years old now. NNXT. So you see the insides of the synths. I haven't changed anything within here. I'm just sort of, sometimes I'll come in and I'll twiddle and I'll change quite a lot, but it just depends what I'm doing. More Project Sam. So strings, brass, woodwinds, keys, harp, percussion, full orchestra. More NNXT, equalizers, Thors. So you can see the limits within, and like all these little things you can tweak, to adjust your sound. The limits within here are based upon your processing. More Project Sam stuff. So I've got about 4 or 5 of them in here. I've got to come in and do some work on these equalizers. Look at all, holy shit, look at all that built into the voice I've put together. Equalizer and equalizer and a compressor and more equalizers, and then all this. I don't know if I did that or I can't remember, but that looks awfully busy. So Some are a lot more straightforward. So yeah, this is the rack. So it's like having, you know, a physical unit sitting in your room that you screw in your processing units and do all your inputs and outputs from. So that's the rack. That's what I wanted to show you before. So this is a construction zone in the middle of the studio, revitalizing an old painting I did nearly 20 years ago. Paints all over the floor. So I had far too many clouds, so I've redone that. I haven't finished yet. I've got to come back in and touch up the continents and collect a lot more National Geographics to get people from. So that's called oh crikey, what's it called? Oh, Global Vision Healing Earth is what it was called. So there'll be that on offer for Crowdfund and lots of other goodies. Okay, so now we're going to have a little look inside the session file. I want to take you very briefly into the song and show you a bit of the middle build-up. So this is the middle of the track where the narration starts, and this is a mixer view with all the tracks that are in it. You can see everything that's in it. Timpani, strings, male choir, string section, Thor, etc. My sample rate's not right, it keeps clicking.
The essential truth is the earth is our earth.
It goes into the build again here.
Will not solve the problems of provision.
So there's only about 8 things at any given time.